newspaper Facebook party, Excellence in Education. This is Marta Perez, and our mission is to expose and inspire excellence in education. Before I introduce our very important guest, please note here at Community Newspaper, we use all safety precautions. We wear masks when we walk in, we use hand sanitizers, temperature checks, and have this great plexiglass between our speakers. Also, please uh, follow us on Facebook and send us questions via our chat room. Now, I am pleased to introduce a pillar in our community. He is Mr. Walter Harvey, who is the school board attorney. And perhaps you have never heard of him. You may have seen him on TV once in a while when board members ask him questions. But he is not only he is the school board attorney for Miami-Dade County, the fourth largest school district. He has had ample work at the county, private practice, and it is my pleasure to introduce him to our party and to hear more about him. Welcome, Mr. Walter Harvey.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Walter, you are a very impressive young man. You went to Harvard Law School. You grew up in Jacksonville. You have had, you belong to endless organizations, have received many awards. As I said, you are a pillar in our community, and you try to keep the school board safe. And I know that that is quite a job. First, let's talk about Walter the man. You were born in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about growing up in Jacksonville. Tell us about your family life.
Okay, thank you. So I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. My mother actually was a public school teacher. She raised me, obviously she was a disciplinarian. She made sure that I was at school every day, whether no matter how I felt. And she made sure that, I studied, that I read books. She had books around the house. Back when I was little, there was the Encyclopedia Britannica that a lot of households had. She would always have the updated version of those, make sure that I was reading. And she didn't like us to watch much television, so I didn't get a chance to watch as much television.
When you say us, you had siblings?
I had siblings. I had a very large family. There was 9 of us. So yeah, it was a very large family. My mother and my father, he was a hardworking guy, had a church. He was very dedicated to the community, and he was pretty well known.
Which number were you?
I'm the youngest boy. So there's 2 girls younger than me, and but I was the youngest boy, and
So were you a good student, Walter?
Yes, I was a good student.
Were all your brothers? Were they all studious, or were you the exception?
It varies. Some are more studious than others. But we all had different callings. Some are in business,
and they're all in Jackson. Are you the only one that left?
We all pretty much left. I have one brother that's still there. He has an insurance agency in downtown Jacksonville. He's still there. He is a graduate of University of North Florida, and he graduated in business, and he's had his insurance agency there for years.
And did you always attend public school?
Yes, I always attended public school throughout. I was, disciplined, and my mother made sure I was studying hard. I was focused. She had me involved in sports.
What sport?
Basketball, football, even baseball. So all the sports that back.
Do you think sports are good for young men?
Yes, I do. I believe sports are very good. It teaches teamwork. It teaches you to get along with other people, other personalities, how to deal with authority, how to deal with your peers, how to work through problems, understanding that sometimes sometimes you get credit for
Hmm.
victories. Sometimes you're very important to the victory, but you may not get the credit.
Hmm.
All, but you take enjoyment in the fact that the team has
Yes.
won. So,
Well, my son was an athlete, and I do see some of the same things
oh,
that
okay,
you see. That on the one hand, it's very dedicated, especially in high school. But I do see that organizational skills, teamwork, all of those things are very important. I think for young men. Speaking of young men, you were not only a son, but you're also a father.
yes.
You're a very proud father. I follow you on Facebook, and I see all of the adventures that you take with your son. And by the way, time flies, Walter, because how long have you been on the school board?
Wow,
Eh,
yes. I was appointed in 2009. So,
and
it's been quite a journey
11
there.
years. So when you started, how your son was how old?
Oh, he was probably
Tiny little thing
tiny
on
little thing, like 2 or
Facebook.
3. Yeah, tiny little thing.
And
And
now,
now he's 15.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So, time flies. Yeah.
Time flies, and I know that you're very proud of him, and I
Yes.
know that you also take him to a lot of the Heat games and
Yes.
all these things that you find out on Facebook, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Not every game. That's quite a chore, but and not obviously since the pandemic has broken out. But I try to take him to at least 1 or 2 games, and it's a big production. It's important. He likes basketball, so he likes sports in general. So I try to take him to games if I
Oh,
can.
does he practice? Because does he have what high school is he attending?
Well, he's now in school in Broward. He was at iPrep
Uh-huh.
through 8th grade. Now he's in ninth, and he's with.
Is he wanting to be an athlete too? May
Uh,
Is he as tall as you are?
Actually, believe it or not, he's now just past me, so he's taller than
Oh
me.
my goodness. Well,
So
you know
yeah,
that the coaches are going to want, the coaches
yeah,
are going to come after him for sure.
yeah.
So, and I want to just touch, time flies, I know, on back to your education, because it's very impressive, of course, for all of us that you graduated from Harvard Law School. First, you attended from Jacksonville, Florida.
Right.
You went all the way to California for your bachelor's. And how did that happen, Walter?
So at the time, I had a sister. I do have members of my family who were in
In
the
California.
military, and
Oh, in the
one
military.
was in California at the time. And I went out to visit California, and I'd say, "Wow, this is beautiful out here.
Paradise.
It's paradise." So I said, "I want to live here." So I ended up going to undergrad in California, and when my sister, it was around my sophomore junior year, she was transferred. She and her husband back to the East Coast to Virginia. I decided to stay in California and finish my undergraduate studies. So I stayed out there, graduated from the University of California in San Diego. Then I took some graduate courses at UCLA and also at Berkeley, just to get the experience, and as well as and it was the education out there was fairly inexpensive at the time, and I became a citizen when I lived there, and then I of course applied to law school, and when of course I was accepted into Harvard, and
And how thrilling was that?
that was very thrilling. That was actually the school I wanted to go
And
to.
what was your mom's reaction?
She
Is your mom still alive?
No, she passed away,
But she was
unfortunately.
alive when you
But
were
she
accepted,
was
and
alive when I accepted, and as a matter of fact, she and my grandmother, who's since passed away as well, were both very excited. My mother actually came to the graduation along with
oh
some of
good, oh good.
my siblings. They were there, and it was a very proud moment for the family. Going up to Boston, it was in May, or at the time, but very chilly. They're Florida people, so. But it was very chilly at the time. But it was a great experience for them to see the whole pageantry, and it was, So I took them for a tour and introduced them to some of the professors and showed them around. And I think it was a very proud moment for them and for the family.
And Walter, how did you end up in Miami then from Boston? Did you ever think of staying in Boston, or you said not too cold?
No, it's too cold for me. I had worked during the summers in New York, but I really wanted to get back to Florida. I had some families that was here in South Florida, in Miami, and I wanted to get back to Miami. I love the city. I used to visit my relatives when I was young, and I would come visit during the summers and stuff, and I really wanted to come back. So I had gotten my experience through education, and I felt like I'd traveled a bit, and I kind of wanted to settle down. Miami's a great place. I have, again, family, friends here. So I came and just plugged right in, love the community, love the reception I received, and just it's just been a great experience. Great place, to raise a family and everything.
Well, thank you. I'm glad, because it's also a part of your, of course, not a part of your job. Your entire job is basically to advise the board and also the superintendent and his staff, but mostly it's to keep the board out of trouble and to keep and to be very frugal with money, because people maybe don't even think, when people think of education, they don't think that we need a full-time staff of people, of attorneys, and you are the head of all of those attorneys. Because just very quickly tell people all the kinds of litigation, all the kinds of people that not necessarily sue us, because we also have contracts and things, but all the kinds of issues that come before us because we have deep pockets, because people think, they have, government, they have a lot of money. So expound on that, please.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting, because we have, and I'll just use this as an example. We have a clerkship program right at the local law schools. So we go to the young, aspiring attorneys who want to become lawyers, and they say, "What do you do?" And so when we explain all the things that we do, they become very surprised and very intrigued. And of course, we've had a great program where we've actually had young law students who actually became attorneys in our office, and they're very fulfilled. I mean, some have come and they say, "Wow, you do labor and employment, you do tort work, you do contract work, you do real estate work."
Tort, for the person that the layman, what kind of cases are those?
So torts are like, for example, car accidents, bus accidents, slip and falls, where an individual's walking on a school property and they slip and fall.
And it could be a teacher, it could be a person that happens to be there to pick up a child. It could be a child.
Could be a child. Could be a child is injured and they allege that there's responsibility on the part of the school for the injury. There's a number of cases that come in. Actually, get quite a few that given we're the fourth largest school district in the country, so there's a number of claims that come in. We typically seek to resolve them. Some have merit, some don't.
That's and that's the we have a $5 billion budget. We spend all of it, but people think, they have a lot of money. So let's and not people, attorneys.
Right.
Tell
true.
People, the school district, yes, that's government. So there are a lot of cases. So Walter, what does the you're going to laugh. What does the organizational chart, because just last night we had a meeting of your office look like?
Okay.
You're the head, and what comes after?
So we do have our deputy school board attorney. His name is Louis Garcia. He's also been practicing in education law for a number of years.
And he's like your assistant, your number two man.
He's my number two. He's certainly more than capable of doing anything that I do. And he is very dedicated. He loves the school system. He's a product of the public school system. His kids have went through this public school system. And, he's a great attorney. We recently had an attorney by the name of Mindy McNichols, who recently retired. She was our attorney that handled all of the policy matters and also charter schools, because we do have, over about 130 charter schools, and we have contracts and issues.
It's about 25% of our students attend charters, I think.
Correct.
And so there is a lot. What kinds of things come up before your office about charter schools? The contracts?
Correct. So typically, so if any charter school wants to do business in Miami-Dade County, they have to submit an application and meet certain criteria that's specified in the statute and in school board policy. And then there's a committee that sits down and reviews that application. And if they meet all the requirements, then that application is forwarded to the school board for approval. And
then besides that, what are some of the other people that are work under you?
So we have Mindy recently retired. She retired actually last week. So Mary Lawson has now taken her place, and Mary will be handling the policies. She's very meticulous. She's very dedicated to public schools. Her daughter's also at IPrep, was a class, with my son. She's a phenomenal attorney. I'm board certified in education law, which means that, I've been certified by the Florida Bar as, an expert or specialist in education law. Mary also has that certification. She's very dedicated. We also have a number of attorneys in different areas. We have
real estate.
And there we have Anna Kraft, who does our real estate. We have
in total, how many attorneys do you have?
There's 15 of us.
15.
15
so
of us,
you have
including me.
14 attorneys that answer to you,
right?
And not that there are 14 different categories,
right?
But then sometimes, unfortunately, because we get sued so often that maybe people don't think about, in spite of the fact that you handle so many things in-house, right, which is a savings to the general public, sometimes we get cases that are too much for us to handle and are not don't make good economic sense for us to handle it.
Right.
So how do you determine when to seek outside counsel, and what are those horrible cases?
So when there's a case where, for example, our office might have a conflict, or if there's a case, again, that requires a certain specialization that our office doesn't have internally.
And what would be some of those?
So, for example, let's say we have a television station or a radio station for public radio and television. For that,
because the school district owns WLRN, so if there's
correct,
a litigation having to do with that.
Correct. So if there's, let's say, a need to certain filings with the FCC, we'd have an attorney that specializes in those FCC filings and make sure that those filings are done appropriately and also timely. And so we have an attorney for that purpose. We have attorneys, for example, if there's a horrific accident or a major case where, it requires multiple attorneys to devote themselves full time to a particular case. Oftentimes we'll assign that to an outside attorney to handle, because it's just too much for us. Sometimes we'll work together with the outside attorneys so that we can make sure we streamline things so they don't waste their time, doing menial tasks and that kind of thing. But
and congratulations to you. I know the board has congratulated you because there have been substantial savings under your leadership in figuring out what is the sweet spot about what we handle in house and what we handle outside, and how to get the best deal for the public. And your office has created great savings for us, and that is credit to you, and thank you very much, and the public owes you the thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Now,
Press.
you said you are a specialist in education law, and time is going so fast, Walter, that I do want to ask you some things. For example, what is guaranteed to a child? What is legally guaranteed to a child when they walk into a school in Miami-Dade?
Well, there's certainly they have a right, both under federal law and state law, to a public education, and a quality public education.
That's every child.
Every child.
Doesn't matter where they were born, how they came to the United States.
Doesn't matter.
Show up at the school door.
Correct.
And is guaranteed.
Correct. And that's correct. I mean, if someone shows up, walks in tomorrow from either in this country or from another country, they walk in tomorrow, they show up, as you said, to the school door, they're entitled to a public education. We have a seat, a teacher, and good instruction. They're entitled to it, and they have federal rights that they can enforce in the courts.
And now we know that there are so many problems with modern life. One of the things is, children who are, and the reason I'm asking is these are the kinds of things that you get all the time. Right. Children of divorced parents, so-and-so picks them up. Who is able to pick up a child when there is a custody dispute? How do you handle that?
Okay, so it's interesting that you say that. That's a very, very common question that comes from our schools. A lot of principals will call our office and they will say, a kid is here, there's a parent that wants to pick them up, or a person who says they're a parent, they want to pick them up, but they're not on the contact card for the school. And so typically what happens is that the parent who has custody and the parent who enrolls the kid into the school, the parent indicates who has the authority to pick up the child. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, sometimes when parents go through divorce, parents sometimes don't indicate that another parent or grandparent has the authority to pick up a child. And then sometimes there are disputes and they make it into the schoolhouse. And what we try to tell the parents is that you need to resolve these issues in the courthouse, not in the schoolhouse. And as you go through the divorce proceedings and as you work out these arrangements with your former spouse or current spouse, you have to make sure that you make it clear in the court's order that who's going to have custody, who has a right to pick up the child at the school, who has a right to attend events, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me ask you, Walter, because our time is flying off. What would you say is the biggest challenge for you and for your office currently?
Well, we certainly have a number of challenges. Obviously, one thing that even goes beyond our office and to the district as a whole is obviously the budget, the pandemic. That is a critical issue, not only for the impact on the economy, the negative impact that the pandemic has had on the economy, but the negative impact it's had on learning, on students getting into the classroom, identifying students who have issues, making sure that they're being educated and advancing in education. Those duties that schools typically have. Mm-hmm.
Are you anticipating a lot of new litigation as a result of the pandemic, new issues that will come up in the law?
Yes, I do anticipate that, and we've seen some of it already.
What kinds of things?
Well, you've seen in some cases where there's been some claims asserted with regard to individuals who contracted COVID. You've seen some claims where individuals, especially individual students with special needs, have said that they're not provided the proper education or the proper services. So you've seen some lawsuits, not as much here, but in other parts of the country where schools have been shut down or shuttered, and there's complete online learning. You've seen a number of lawsuits that have been filed because students aren't really getting adequately.
What has been your biggest satisfaction that your job has provided for you? What has been
There's a number of satisfactory points that I could bring to your attention. One is obviously seeing kids in schools learning, progressing, doing well, thriving. That's like one of the greatest pleasures that I get in life. Even before I became a school board attorney, I just love to watch young kids learn and grow and reach their potential. That's something that I really enjoy. And so if anything I can do to contribute to that, I think makes me feel that what I'm doing is worth it. I also enjoy working for my client, my 9 board members, obviously. I enjoy
some days more than others, right?
And I do enjoy working with district staff. I think I enjoy working with smart people who know how to solve problems, who are interested in moving this community and this district forward. I'm always interested in doing whatever we can to assist them and help them move the district forward. Those are the kind of things that really bring me a great deal of satisfaction, and of course, being, close to, when I was close with my son and being able to watch him go to school and participate in that was certainly a great.
We have a few minutes left, so I'm going to lay this question on you to see what you think. Where do you see our school district in 10 years? And
that's a very, very good question.
I know, right? It's a question that requires a lot of thought, because
yes.
I will help you to answer. With the pandemic, what with computers, what with books, what with the research on what is effective, whether learning online, whether not learning online. You read even on about reading. We hear that teaching children to read on computers. Some research is out there that maybe having sheets of books, physical books, is better. That's part of our challenge, and your challenge, and our challenge is that. What will the public expect of us? What kinds of education? What will be important? Writing is not, we don't teach writing the way we used to. We don't have penmanship. So figuring out where we're going to be in 10 years is a very difficult question. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I know that these are some of the things that we all think about. And I cannot thank you enough, Walter, for all the work you do, for your patience with the board. As you said, the board is your client, and we have deep pockets. The public has deep pockets. So it's not like in any way you ever have a boring job. I know that you don't ever have a day where you don't have more than enough on your plate. Kindly share with us what time you got home last night.
I got home at 10 o'clock. We had a late meeting.
At night.
And then after that meeting, I had to wrap a few things up in the office and then get, of course, started again early this morning. But it's a pleasure. I mean, it's great to feel and be wanted by anyone. And certainly I feel that when I go to work, I work with a lot of great professionals, and
the work is very important.
And the work is important, I think, and I take that very seriously. And I want to thank you for inviting me on this show. And I think it's certainly been a pleasure serving you
Oh,
and the
thank you.
board.
Some
And
days, some days.
well, no, and and believe it, and I do learn a lot. It's almost every day, and even from and sitting there in meetings that sometimes you may not think, but I'm definitely paying close attention and learning a great deal. I don't think I'm the same person that was appointed. I think I've learned through the years how to deal with issues and work through them. And so hopefully, we'll the system will continue to grow, and more importantly, that kids will continue to get quality education and grow and learn and develop. And that's what I'd like to see
Thank
for
you
this
so much,
community.
and thank you so much for being our guest. And please come back and
Thank you.
tell us more, because there's so many things, so many avenues about law and about education law, in particular, that doesn't get talked about except when you read, some headline about something awful that has happened. That's the kind of news where you people say, oh yeah, that's right, we have an attorney, yeah, that's right, there was a lawsuit. So but there's a lot of good things too.
Yes.
So thank you for your service, and please come back and visit us. And thank you all for watching, and we'll be here in 2 weeks with Excellence in Education. And thank you.